Hello and welcome to the King's Forum podcast show. I have a very special guest, Els. Hi, Els.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's something we've been trying to put together for a while, so it's nice. It's finally happened today on a nice sunny Saturday.
I know, it's so nice here. Oh, yeah, look at the sun just shining off my face. That was so well timed.
It was, wasn't it?
There we go. Yeah, thanks for I know, so this is the second chat we've had. So it's nice to be on your turf this time.
And me asking the questions.
Yeah, I'll just sit back, relax.
You could just chill today.
Yeah, man.
Right, so I should say Ellie McGrath. Let's do it properly. Els, I call Ellie Els, but let's say Ellie McGrath has got a show, a podcast show. It's called Practice Makes Progress. It's on Spotify and where else you want? Is it just
iTunes, Apple Podcasts, just wherever anyone gets their usual podcast from. I'm there.
Cool, and it's a really great show. I've listened to a couple. I need to catch up on a lot of them. Real insight into varied topics, mainly mental health. Yeah, I'm guessing what I've seen from the subjects, and some really in-depth conversations and honest conversations. No scripts, we're just delving in deep and finding out and getting to the crux of whatever the matter be. So. Ellie, could you talk more about your podcast, please?
Yeah, of course. So hello everyone. So Practice Makes Progress it was a year old last week.
Yeah, so congratulations.
Thank you. It's obviously the usual saying is practice makes perfect. And growing up, I was a huge perfectionist. To anyone that is listening, watching that can relate, it's an unrealistic standard. Perfect doesn't exist, and you end up almost killing yourself sometimes to try and achieve that. And that held me back not held me back, but it caused a lot of trouble for me mentally for a long time, because I would set myself these unrealistic goals that I never should have set myself in the first place, and then I would get annoyed that I didn't. So obviously I know we're going to jump into all of that in the rest of the episode, but it's getting rid of that perfection element, and it's encouraging people to focus on progress, because that is achievable and that's realistic, and progress should be that's what we should strive for, taking one day at a time, and just kind of getting back up after falling down. I think is a huge thing that I really want to try and champion. Celebrating small wins, the silent battles, and just kind of being here for life, really, and going along with the mess that comes with it.
I think instead the key things there is it's all about being realistic about your goals, isn't it? Because, they can have an impact on you when you don't achieve those goals, is that it affects you because you put so much emphasis on that achievement and what is achievement to you and kind of what is success to you. So I think it's being realistic within that and realize, even if it's one thing, it's something of that to do. Rather than saying, I need to complete that whole list today, and if I don't, I'm not going to get to where I need to be. And I think that's it. And it's going easier on yourself, because we're very hard on ourselves as human beings, and we get out ourselves and our own biggest critics, and we're not doing good enough and we're not doing this. I think sometimes just take it easy, and that then connects with self-care and things like that. And I think that's a part of it as well, is that let's go easier on ourselves and realize it's a process. And whether it's 2 things off your to-do list or 4 things, whatever, it's an achievement.
Massively. And I completely agree with you. When you're so negative to yourself, which I was for a very long time, everything's just harder because nothing's ever good enough, and your mind just becomes quite a kind of lonely, toxic, sad place to be. And so I kind of say to people that actually a lot of my kind of like recovery and healing has been unlearning as much as it is new learning. It's actually kind of getting rid of all those expectations I have for myself to be able to do 10 things at once, saying we even started recording, that this week I feel burnt out, and
Mm.
I'm getting better at saying, I don't know how to do this, I can't handle it, I'm not going to meet that deadline. And teenage me, even me like a couple of years ago, that I never would have said that, because it would feel like admitting defeat, and it would feel like failing. And it's not. It's being, like you said, realistic. What can I manage? And as soon as I've kind of changed what I value, like you're saying, what success looks like, it's almost like I feel more successful, because I'm kind of hitting those more realistic benchmarks. So then I kind of feel proud of myself. But yeah, I think it's getting rid of, unlearning a lot of ways of thinking that I think we kind of see productivity and all of that in society. So
Yeah, definitely the external factors as well as the internal, the constant battle, that we're back.
100%. Like COVID, like looking for jobs, like before, like how there's never been this many people unemployed before. And I think so much comes of that. And obviously, like as a new graduate myself, like, yeah, it's just, you look at people, and obviously social media doesn't help, and you're looking at people going, well, it just feels like nothing goes wrong in their life. And how did they get so many jobs when I'm just getting rejections all the time? And again, it's just like, well, no, they are, just no one's saying it. And so that's what the podcast also does. Like you're saying, it's real, it's raw, no one's pretending. And that just lets other people realize that they don't have to pretend either. And oh my God, how much lighter do you feel when you don't have to pretend? It's so nice.
No, I definitely feel that, and social media and all these other platforms that we're on, and it's important to stay true to yourself and be authentic, because and show the journey to where you got to, because as I said, those snapshots of the people celebrating their successes, a lot of the time we're not seeing the journey and how they got there. So it can be frustrating, and again, as human beings, we compare ourselves to others, instead of just looking at ourselves and our journey, which is totally different. That's why your life is separate to other people's, and we need to just focus on ourselves and look at that healing and working on ourselves, rather than looking at what other people are doing and always comparing ourselves to those other people.
100%. Yeah. Well, it's just like nobody's lived my life, and the same way I haven't lived someone else's. So there's no way that I can know what's best for that person, because I don't have those experiences. And I think something that I've really learned to do is just getting comfortable with that. It's getting comfortable with, but what will be best for me, and just doing that, and stopping caring what other people are up to, and just kind of go, like staying in my own lane, going at my own pace. Comparison is a hard thing to unlearn, and it's a continuous battle like that I do every single day. Like it's not just looks, it's like you're saying, success, it's everything in life. But you're just going to get lost, because you're going to try and be like someone else, and that's just not going to benefit you. So
Yeah, definitely. You're also celebrating another 2 months of sobriety.
yeah, so it's coming up to, well, it's 70 days tomorrow, so 10 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that. I know it's quite a journey for you.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one. And I kind of say to everyone, like if we've been recording this like last year, so I gave up alcohol for 6 weeks when we, like just after the first lockdown, or just during the first lockdown, because like a lot of people, I was getting drunk on Zoom, but this was before I moved back home, before I lost my job. So I was like drinking alone in my room, getting sick. And so I gave up for 6 weeks, and I felt incredible. But 6 weeks, I now realize, is not long enough. And I thought like alcohol was the devil, and I would have sworn everyone off it, and been like, don't touch the stuff. Ugh. Whereas this time is very different, because I realized that alcohol was never the issue. It was actually me. It was whatever was driving the need to drink, or the want to drink, or the escapism. So this time feels completely different, and it doesn't feel hard, because I'm learning more about myself every time. So yeah, it's been a huge it's probably been my most, I'd say in recent years, probably my most like pivotal sort of journey, I guess.
Yeah. So when did that penny drop, when you said, you know what, I really have a problem and I really need to do something about it? When that's self-realization of when you know what, you're actually hurting yourself here. This isn't helping, and you have that moment of clarity.
So I'd love to say that it happened so much sooner. Like there were so many times, and I think obviously this is part of it, which was there was like most times I would wake up and I would just sit there and hate myself because I didn't remember how I got home. I didn't remember what I said and did. I'd see things posted on my story. And I think especially when you're kind of at uni or just after, I think people just lump it with, oh, that's just a lifestyle, or like, oh, it's fine because everyone else is like it. So there were many times where I was like, nobody else seems to be blacking out as much as I do though. Like why is it that it kind of always goes too far? And so I'd love to say that, you know, the first time I thought this isn't healthy, I did something about it. But last year, I don't know, I think it was getting sick, and I remember waking up the next morning and it was like the next day. And I remember just looking at myself in the mirror, not to be dramatic, but I was literally like, I looked at myself and I was like, this actually can't carry on. Like I actually just want better than this now. And I literally just got rid of it overnight. Nobody believed me. Nobody believed I would do it because growing up, I was probably so big-headed to say like the life and soul, but like I was always the one that was up for going out, up for another drink, up for another round, never wanted the night to end. So to kind of turn around and be like, yeah, I'm not drinking anymore. I think that surprised people. But yeah, it was a grim feeling where I looked at myself and I just thought, how much longer are you going to pretend that this isn't an issue, type thing?
Did you seek help? Did you speak to anyone about it, or?
Not professionally. Obviously my close friends at the time, and it's kind of funny because obviously I'm back at home now, and I what I do like to include when I guess I tell this story, and it's not to blame anyone else, but my parents drink quite a lot. My family, I don't
Really?
know.
Part of that environment you grew up in.
Exactly. So I'm not saying it's like an Irish thing. I'm not trying to fulfill all the stereotypes, but it was just a kind of thing that like I always associated with fun, you know. It was from I guess like 16, 17, family holidays, summers, you know. It was just a chance for us all to just sit around, because there's 6 of us, so I'm one of 4 siblings and my parents, and obviously extended family. It was just a way to kind of like unwind, connect, have a giggle. So it wasn't as if I kind of like had an issue, or it suddenly became an issue, where it was only when like I was sad at a time in my life and then I started drinking. I've kind of always drank, like from the age that you start to. But it was always fun. It wasn't until uni that it sort of started to change. But that was more to do with like the mental struggles I had. But no one kind of professionally, and yeah, just my friends I spoke about it with, really.
Did you tell any family about your family members about what you was going through?
I literally just said like, I just want to stop drinking. I didn't really go into the depths because I don't even think I really knew at that time. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure anyone listening, and I'm sure yourself included, like it kind of takes a while for you to kind of like, sometimes I'll have an opinion about something, give it like 2 weeks and I'll completely change my mind. So I didn't really know. I just knew I wanted to feel better and I wanted to feel healthier. And yeah, I think that was sort of like the impetus. But they were, you know, I mean, even to say, they kind of tempt me and go, oh, you don't miss it. And so I think there's maybe a kind of lack of I don't think that kind of pairing with the mental is really there, because I don't think it's there for them. And I think sometimes if you can't relate to something, you don't really maybe get it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Definitely. Looking back, did you start to look at kind of what made you drink so much of those times? I know it was a part of your environment when you were growing up, but those moments you talked about, like when you were on your own, you were drinking, did you start to reflect on maybe why?
100%. So that's what I've definitely done this time. I think I've always been very insecure. I think it probably was a way of like escaping. And I think anyone who it doesn't have to be anxiety, but I had so many voices in my head the whole time, being pulled in so many different directions, being so critical. I think alcohol was a bit of an escape, and it was just a bit of like, it was a way at first, it seemed, short term, it's a bit of a relief. It's a bit of like a way to have a giggle, you know. And I think especially it's British culture as well, like, had a bad day, have a drink. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of instilled in you to kind of like, yeah, it becomes a coping mechanism. And so I think how that changed when I went to uni is, well, I wasn't living at home, so I had all the freedom I wanted. And also I kind of went to uni not being honest about the people that I live with and I was friends with about what I've been through and my struggles. And so I'm kind of doing more research about it now, but I just think you can often want to like just escape and run away from what you're actually feeling through alcohol. So I look back and I just see someone who's very insecure, very underconfident, and just felt like she needed it to be really funny and whatever else.
What impact do you think your drinking had on your relationships with friends and family?
Family, to be honest, I don't think it really did that much, because I think they're kind of all in the same boat. So I, you know, and it's silly things like, you know, like a drunken argument is always forgiven the next day, because I think we always kind of, do you know what I mean? It was just kind of like no one took it to heart or whatever. We kind of just got over it. Friendships, it's interesting. So I would say maybe relationships more, like romantic ones, because as I said, very insecure. So what can often happen, especially if you're not with a person that you feel like you can communicate with, which again is my bad, not alcohol's bad. You know, when it goes to a point, so I don't know if this makes sense to you or anyone listening, but like, you know, the first few drinks, oh, it's funny, you know, I get a bit louder. I'm already loud, but like get a bit louder. You know, everything's slightly funny, you're tipsy, and then it kind of goes too far, and this other me appears, and it's like anything I've had, you know, a bit of grief about, feel down about, unfiltered, because your inhibitions go, right? So you don't know filter, you don't know what's appropriate. I've accused ex-boyfriends of not loving me. I mean, some turned out to be true, so that's fine. But yeah, and like I've lied before when I've been drunk. My friends find that. I know that was a weird one. Like I've been like, oh yeah, she said this, and that person's going, I never said that. And I've argued with people, I get a bit leery. So but again, I think when you're at uni, it kind of all gets jumbled up into this kind of like, I don't know, it's just part of that bubble and that dynamic. And I guess it's okay. But it's not okay, because I don't think drunken arguments are normal anymore. You know, I don't think that you should have to be with someone that completely changes when they drink and accuses you of things, but the next morning it's like, oh, you know, I didn't mean it. It's like, well, you might not have meant it, but you said it, and you actually left me feeling really uncertain and quite sad. So it might be easy for you to get over, and it also was worse when I didn't remember stuff I did, right? So I'm apologizing for stuff that I have no recollection of saying. So I think the short answer is, it probably, I don't know, probably people just saw a different side to me, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah, and like you said, it's kind of the environment, so it was normalized, that type of behavior. No one pick bones with that and say, oh yeah, actually the way you're going on last night is kind of like most people are getting drunk, you know, most people are acting up, probably not exactly the same as you, but some similar. So it, you know, it's kind of like just brushed under the carpet type thing, rather than saying, you know, you might actually have a problem. Where we all get drunk and we all get loud, so big deal.
100%. I think the uni culture is a very interesting one, because everything just revolves around your social life. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like, I had a great time, and I'm not saying that going out isn't good, isn't, you know, social interaction. Obviously during COVID, like, I'm so glad I went to uni and had the experiences I did when I did. But I think when it becomes a habit, and you're hurting people, or do you know what? Obviously it really does impact other people, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't sit right with you, that's just enough. You know, you don't kind of need to upset so many people before you do something about it. If it leaves you feeling a certain way, which it did for me the longest time, that's when you should really kind of be honest with yourself.
Definitely. So what impact did the drinking have on your health?
I think not only, you know, just in terms of like food and exercise. Actually, interestingly, I think stopping drinking has helped me heal my relationship with food, because when I was younger, for you who don't already know, I sort of gained a bit of weight when I was 14.
All right.
And then some stretch marks were pointed out to me in a PE class, which sort of sent me the other way. And I was only 14, and my mum's apologized for it now, but I got put on this really restricted diet that didn't really allow for much fun. And I was only 14, so that really kind of changed my relationship with food. And I think then something alcohol kind of did was kind of like, again, I think it's just like letting go. So going from like caring and like counting to suddenly nothing mattered. But weirdly, that made me more unhealthy. And then I think a big thing at uni again is like, a lot of people don't eat before they go out because they want to get drunker.
Yeah, that's right. No, yeah. I remember the culture. Yeah.
Which isn't normal. Like, you're prioritizing getting drunk over food, which just makes no sense. But I mean, like, I've always been very like a gym goer, but there comes a point where like you can't out train a bad diet. Do you know what I mean? And just kind of like, again, then like all the snacking, and then like not wanting to move the next day. So I think also, again, like memory loss and blacking out is scary. Like, I don't want that to be normal. So I think in terms of like my physical health, it's just a bit probably more lethargic and you know, a chubbier face and whatever else. But in terms of like mental, you're putting yourself at risk as well, which isn't that good. But
Definitely. So those moments you talked about earlier about being alone and drinking in your room, what type of thoughts were going through your head at that time?
So I kind of, for me, that was very much like November 2020, no, November 2019, so like just before the pandemic. I can sound really bad. I just loved getting drunk. Like, for me, getting drunk was just so fun because the music's on, you're feeling yourself, you're chatting to people. So I just thought that it was like jokes, genuinely. I remember coming back from, like, I was studying my master's at the time, or work, and hospitality definitely didn't help either. But I just thought it was fun to like sit and like escape and chat shit and whatever else. And they were definitely kind of like, I think it was just a massive coping mechanism. It was almost just like, do you want to just get a bottle and Zoom later? And that just became like my way of hanging out with people. And I don't know whether I thought it gave me this confidence or whether I was running away. I don't know. I'm still kind of processing it. But I think the kind of sitting around and drinking, I just love the feeling of being tipsy. I don't know why. I don't know what it did for me, but yeah.
And it kind of it makes me think of kind of not happy with you and you doing something that you don't have to deal with yourself for, depending on how long you're drunk for. So those times, as you said, escapism, you're getting away from dealing with you and how you're feeling, because you're unhappy with yourself and where you are in your life, maybe stage wise, or it's a trauma from childhood, whatever it is, there's hurt there, and it's your way of dealing with that hurt and escaping from that hurt for that. those hours and that time until the morning. And the only thing about that with the alcohol is a depressant. So the morning or what, you're feeling really, really low after it. You
That's
know.
the thing with alcohol. It tricks you. It gives you temporary relief. It gives you fun for a couple of hours. And you're right. And I think what I've never done is really go back to childhood, early adolescence, where clearly things happened and very traumatic things happened, and I didn't ask for help. And I wasn't really nurtured. So I'm not saying it's kind of like it's so one equals the other, but like I kind of forgive myself because I'm like, well, I probably at one point found something that made me feel like I wasn't this person weighed down by all these feelings. And like you were saying, not being happy with yourself, oh my God, like I had the lowest self-esteem my whole entire life. I just didn't think I was good enough. Like genuinely, yes, the perfectionism was a huge part of that. But even underneath that, I just didn't think I was beautiful. I didn't think I was, nice to be around. I just didn't think very highly of myself. So yeah, probably down the line, when I was old enough and it was legal, it became a way of like, I don't know, I could almost disguise that again, I guess.
Yeah, and it kind of connects with that whole life and soul of the party because you want to be liked. You want to be at the forefront of anything that's going on because you're craving that attention and that almost self-validation.
Yeah. Oh,
right to be here, and everyone's gonna like me because I'm so loud, I'm so funny, I'm so involved. I drink, in the drinking games, I can win them all. I can drink anyone under the table here, so I'm gonna get well known. And it's things we all crave anyway. It's just in different ways.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah,
we want to be liked and loved.
100%. And this isn't to par anyone that might be listening that this refers to, but I've been on so many dates that I didn't need to go on. But and that's what's so funny, because my most recent relationship, I actually met him sober, and I was very conscious of my drinking if we did ever drink together. And that was lovely for me because I was like, no boy has ever met me, because like, especially for me, like obviously relationships I had when I was younger, I'm not counting in this point, but like from when I went to uni and the relationship I had in my first year ended, everyone I sort of dated between then and last year like the first few dates, like everyone always suggests a pub, like you always suggest a drink, or if you meet at uni, it's likely that you chewed each other's face off at some club at one point. Do you know what I mean? So like, especially when it comes to being liked and that validation, boys are such an obvious, well, whoever you are attracted to is for me, guys, it was such an obvious way for me to get that validation. And drunken dates, oh my God, like if I had £1 genuinely, like it's just so unnecessary.
You're a millionaire right now. Yeah.
That's what I mean. I'm like, it's not, I really don't want to offend, because some of them are really, really lovely, but do you know what I mean? It's so refreshing. Again, it goes back to that authentic self and just kind of being who you are and not caring about that so much. When I was younger, I didn't realize that like a relationship, that's what a relationship is. You can't keep up being drunk forever. I mean, unless you meet someone who's the same, and that's not healthy. So there's always going to come a point where I was going to have to just let someone in. And I think, again, it always goes back to that, just not being happy with who I am. And so kind of fearing being sober me, because that was the real me, and were they going to like that? But yeah.
So what stage of your recovery are you at right now, do you feel? How do you feel within yourself is probably a better way of putting it.
Yeah, really good. Like honestly, the happiest I've ever been. And I say that after so many years of beating myself up and all that such. So I was going to do dry January like a lot of people did, but then a relationship ended kind of unexpectedly at the beginning of this year, and that tested me, because old me would have been like, who gives a fuck, let me download Hinge. Let me, and like, again, like you're saying, the environment, it's not like I'm short of booze here at home. So I could have drunken my way through it and needed those bits of validation and needed to just feel fun and forget. Do you know what I mean? So rather than face the painful feelings that were sad, but I actually did that this time. And then what that did, so it wasn't, you know, obviously just the feelings of the breakup, but it was almost like everything I've kind of ever just like pushed under the rug.
Yeah.
I've just been dealing with these last 10 weeks and it's heavy. But sorry.
Definitely heavy.
Oh my God, so yeah, so heavy.
And dealing with it and not doing what we normally do as human beings is put it on the back burner and just kind of get on with life. You start dealing with stuff and you realize, you know what, all this unprocessed stuff in my life, it weighs you down. It weighs you down. So you need your time out. Like you said recently, you felt like there's so much going on that you just need to chill out for a bit to have time to deal. So I hear you totally.
Yeah, you're right. It's heavy, and but like the one thing I could say to myself is like, but this this is the one thing that you're doing every day, and I think again it's like one step at a time, and that to-do list stuff that we said at the very beginning. And it's different, and obviously I've done it for a month longer than I did last year, but it's also different this year. Last year I did it because it was necessary, and I think I call last year almost like an intervention. This is because I just think my mental health right now is better off without it. Because I'm processing not just this breakup, but like breakups in the past. You know what I mean? Like I definitely think back to my relationship before the breakdown of that one. Can I swear on here?
Yeah.
Holy fucking Christ. I did not deal with that as I should have. I partied my way through it. And I don't think I ever really kind of faced that. And obviously those things can always resurface when you're facing pain again. But it wasn't just that. And so I feel where I'm at now is I'm kind of like, I'm not anxious because I don't wake up hungover. I don't wonder what I said and what I did. The last 10 weeks, I have absolute clear memory of, because I've been sober, so I haven't forgotten anything I've said or I've done. I feel physically better than I ever have. My skin, apart from wearing the COVID mask at work this week, has like dramatically improved. You know, I'm drinking more water. It's just kind of like, it's just allowed me to kind of better myself and heal, which is something I've never really done before. And it's intense in COVID because you have so much more time to sit with your thoughts. And obviously, as I'm sure has become clear in this episode, my thoughts used to weigh me down. I used to want to run away. So kind of not having anything to distract myself from them meant I had to face a lot sooner. But I feel like at the point I'm at now, I'm better off for it, because I kind of was just like, we're going to ride this messy wave, and actually changing my way of thinking. So I kind of did an IGTV on my Instagram page, probably like mid-January. I was kind of like, wow, I really had like, I felt sorry for myself a lot of the time. And I kind of like victimized myself when actually there's stuff that I could be doing to change that. And obviously alcohol, I think, is one thing. And that's why I don't think alcohol is the issue. But right now I know that like, I don't think I'm healed enough from everything that kind of reintroducing it right now is good for me. And I feel proud that I've kept a promise to myself that I said I would. And that's lovely. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm proud of you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, that, you know, I respect that. I respect that you know, and it's about the actions, because we talk a lot about, oh yeah, we want this for ourselves and what have you, but it's the actions for me. And that's one thing I've changed in my kind of just how I go about things in my life, is that I used to talk a lot. I used to be saying, yeah, I'm gonna do this, what, this and what, and then nothing happens. Nothing materializes. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna less of the chat. And
Start doing.
More about the doing, because that's what defines you, is your actions, not what you say.
So true. It's so true. And everything just kind of comes from that. Like once you do one good thing for yourself, that becomes a weird new addiction. So actually, I'd say that I don't think I was ever addicted to alcohol. I think I was maybe addicted to the feeling. But once you do one thing that makes you feel better, it just unlocks this part of your brain that you just go, what else can I be doing? And actually, I've got we'll mention a few people, but one person. So when I first started my podcast, I had someone on as a guest who was, I think, 7 months sober at the time, and someone I only ever bumped into at the beer garden Wetherspoons in our area, right? So his name's Angus, and he's been a huge kind of inspiration for me, because I think doesn't just go for this, goes for anything. Obviously no one talks about it, but when you kind of don't see anyone that looks like you, talks like you know, you see yourself in talking about the same kind of issues, you feel more alone. And so for me, I know it's going to sound like really funny, and I say it to him all the time, like to kind of have this like North London geese, you know, who was always about, always loud, whatever, going, yeah, I don't drink anymore, like, and you know, because I'm bettering myself. It's going to sound really lame, but he made it cool. He made it like something that I wasn't scared to do, because he was doing it. Yeah, he was doing it so confidently and just didn't care. And we've built up a very, very good friendship, to a point where we're now going to co-host a second series of a sobriety podcast that he had already, and we've become really good buddies. And he's shown me a whole community of people, so we're on a group chat. And again, it's just like, it doesn't need, you don't need to be like an addict, you don't need to be sitting in a room going, hi, my name is Ellie. Like you just need to say, like, this is what I'm doing at the moment for my health. And I think, again, we go back to those unrealistic aims. You know, it was never about never drinking again. If that ends up happening, okay, cool. But it's just about like people that are sober curious, and just kind of like looking at their behavior, being very self-aware, looking at the impact that drugs and alcohol can have, and kind of choosing better, not just for you, but for your immediate sort of circle. So that's the kind of place I'm at now. And it's just, I don't want it to stop, really.
Yeah, no, I hear that. So do you have any tips for anyone going through similar struggles with alcohol? And
My biggest thing would be, you are not alone. Obviously I use that, you know, when I talk about most mental health things, but I think read, listen. So I like sped through a book by Bryony Gordon, who I just think is unreal. And it's so funny because like things that she says in this book, I mean, they are raw. It is the rawest book I've ever read, but it kind of makes you giggle and you smile, because you think, oh my God, I've been there. And I think because I think with alcohol, you can feel quite ashamed that you are even having to admit to this. And especially the culture that we live in. Do you know what I mean? Like alcohol's kind of everyone's favorite accessory. Like it's everywhere you go. And so it kind of feels quite isolating to be like, yeah, I don't want to partake in that anymore. And obviously you face the things of, oh, you're boring and you lose friends and whatever else. So what I would say to people is big yourselves up for even having the confidence to admit it to yourself, to write it down to one friend, and just take it one day at a time, genuinely, because it's overwhelming. So I think what I would say is, yeah, don't tell everyone, keep it to just a couple, kind of find someone that maybe you have good connections with or feels quite accessible, who is sober, and just ask them, because most sober people will be willing to answer whatever questions you have. So I would say, yeah, if it doesn't feel like your family or immediate circle, find someone on your socials or myself, or I can direct you to people, and just be like, look, this is where I'm at. And people will always have the time of day. There are so many Instagram pages, books, podcasts, like the content is out there. And just take it day by day, see how you feel. And don't be afraid to make that step, because at the end of the day, like, it's so funny because I was saying to myself, like, I get quite nervous when I tell people sometimes. I'm like, I would never judge someone else for doing it. And what am I going to wait for someone who I think is like cool to say that they don't drink for me to finally accept that it's okay to do? Like, no, like, just do it for you, and you don't need to explain it to anyone else.
100%. So from this whole experience, what have you learned about yourself?
I've learned I'm really capable. I've learned that there's actually quite a lot about myself that I like. I think I found my light again. I think I have learned that I've learned to forgive myself, because I think a lot of the things I struggle with that I maybe turned to alcohol for weren't my fault. I think a lot of life just kind of happens to you. Like, I know that we said when we recorded the podcast for Your Mind, like, you kind of just survive. You get through what you need to. And yeah, I think when you're dealing with anything, you just have to show compassion towards yourself. So, and I've learned that I am compassionate, and I've learned that I'm funny. And it sounds really silly, but I started this new job, and I kind of turned up with my curly hair, and I wasn't drinking. And, you know, it's so funny because I just turned up to this job kind of feeling more me than ever, but I so don't look or behave like most people that have known me for years do. So I've learned that I can do it, and I've learned that I am enough, and the right people will stay. I think that's been a huge one. I think, do you, it will attract the same vibe. And yeah, I just feel like things kind of play out as they're supposed to. Yeah, and I've just learned that, don't know, like, inner contentment exists, I guess.
100%.
Mm.
Ellie, thank you very much for your
Thank you
time.
so much.
Absolute pleasure. Getting to know you even more now with these podcasts that we're doing. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice getting to know you some more. And, you know, I'm sure this will help many, you know, are in similar situations, and, you know, just to look, you know, within themselves, and don't be afraid of who you are. And like you've done, you've discovered that you started to fall in love with yourself again, of who you are, and, you know, what you're about, and why you've had long lasting relationships with friends, and, you know, without having to be this loud life of the party all the time. You can just, you know, you could just be yourself, and, you know, be a part of, you know, in any environment, without feeling you have to be someone else in order to enjoy yourself. So it's nice. And, you know, one of the reasons I don't drink, to be honest, is that as well, is just, I just want to be me, and take it or leave it. I'm going to be me.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't, then, you know, we're not going to be friends or whatever. And, or if you do, then we can, you know, start a friendship or what have you. So yeah, I'm all about that, and definitely appreciate you coming on the show.
No, I want to say thank you as well, because the platform you've built is really refreshing. And I think also it's really lovely to kind of actually see these conversations happen, you know. So it's really lovely that people can go back and like see our faces and watch the interactions, and you just keep it very real. And I really appreciate all the support that you've given me in the last few months. So yeah, I just want to say thank you right back. Yeah, and even being able to have this conversation, it's something that I haven't really I think I've only maybe spoken about once, but not so as in depth as this one. But I love what you say, you know, it's take it or leave it. And, you know, this is the authentic me. And if it doesn't suit you, that is very fine with me. Because I'm happy with me. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's all we need, and that's all we can be. Like, I can't be happy, you know. I shared something on my story this morning. I was like, don't I was like, the key for your unhappiness, the key to unlocking your happiness, don't let it like be in someone else's pocket or whatever. And I think it's so true. It's just like, you've got to do it for you. You've got to be happy with you. And I think you really inspire me to kind of keep all that going, because you just show up as you are. And
oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, man. This is the second, I'm sure, of many, 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 many more
collaborations.
Yeah, because I've met someone who can talk just as much as I can, and I'm loving it.
Guys, please like, subscribe, and share the video. And I'm sure we'll be doing more content together. And see you soon, Ellie. Thank you very much.
Later. Have a good day, guys.
Bye.